Picture this. You walk out to your apiary, and your hive is just bursting with bees. The acacia flow is at its absolute peak, nectar is literally flooding in, and your queen is laying in every single available cell. You look at it and think, wow, this is the perfect colony. But then, you come back the very next morning and shock sets in. Your absolute best swarm is just hanging there on a nearby tree branch. You immediately wonder, why that colony? Why do the weak ones stay put and the best ones just take off and leave? Well, welcome to this explainer, where we're going to completely transform how you approach this. We are moving from being reactive observers to true proactive strategists. Today, we're not just putting out fires, we're learning surgically precise apiary control.
That is the exact question that haunts literally every beginner when they see that massive swarm hanging on a branch. Where did you go wrong? Were you just too late? Were you unsuccessfully trying to put out a fire instead of preventing the spark in the first place? You see, the real problem is that your seemingly perfect hive was actually a pressure cooker, and it exploded into a swarm despite those ideal conditions. Okay, let's dive into this and discover exactly how we can preempt this crisis using bee biology as our absolute greatest tool.
So here's our quick roadmap for today's explainer. First, we'll look at the signs of swarming. 2. The secret of the forager bees. 3. How to use Snelgrove board control. 4. Maintaining honey strength. And finally, number 5, we'll cover some common mistakes.
All right, section 1, swarming signs, reading the hive.
You know, professional beekeeping simply doesn't run on guesswork. Leonard Snelgrove, the brilliant analyst behind the method we're unpacking today, knew for a fact that if you see a swarm on a branch, you are already way too late. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it teaches you to observe the invisible. Externally, two hives might look identical, but inside, completely different story. One is in total work mode, while the other is, mentally, already sitting on that tree branch. You kind of have to become a detective here. Is the queen's laying pace starting to slow down? Look at the bee density right on the top bars when you open the roof, and pay really close attention to the entrance. Are they bringing in less pollen? Are there an abnormal number of bees just sitting there, fanning and ventilating? These signs, they're literally the language your hive speaks.
And when we ignore those signs, well, we get what we call swarm pressure. A lot of beginners think bees swarm just because they run out of physical space, but the truth is so much deeper than that. It is all about population balance. When way too many young, unemployed bees start to accumulate, you get this massive buildup of excess heat and pheromone pressure inside the hive. It creates a literal pressure cooker effect, and that triggers an absolutely unstoppable state, the swarm instinct. Snelgrove's true genius was knowing exactly how to safely redirect all that built-up pressure.
Moving right along to section 2, the forager bee's secret, which is our biological foundation. So, to actually control that swarm pressure, we first have to understand how bees think. And the key figure in this whole operation, it's the old forager bee. These specific bees possess an unbelievable homing instinct. They unerringly return to the exact same place, the exact same entrance they memorized during their very first orientation flight. This isn't just some fun bit of biological trivia. Their homing instinct is, quite frankly, our most powerful weapon when it comes to manipulating the hive's overall population.
And this brilliantly illustrates the complete shift in mentality that you need to make. On one side, you have the average beginner beekeeper. They're panicking, fighting nature with brute force, and only reacting when the problem literally explodes in their face. But on the other side, that's you, the strategist. You use their biology. You use their homing instinct. You intentionally redirect their natural drives and take full control weeks before the swarm instinct even peaks. That right there is the vital difference between fighting nature and working in harmony with it.
Let's get into section 3, Snelgrove board control, your ultimate redirection tool.
Okay, so now that we know we're actively targeting forager bees, let's meet our main tool. Now, at first glance, the Snelgrove board is just a simple wooden divider with a highly specific system of entrances, but put it in the hands of a strategist and it becomes a literal control panel for workforce distribution. Think about a classic swarm. The old queen leaves and she takes the foragers with her. The Snelgrove board lets us cut that exact dynamic off at the roots by acting as a pressure release valve. We basically divide the colony into two parts. One stays below, the other goes above.
And here's where the real magic of precision beekeeping happens. First up, you split the colony into an upper and a lower section. Then, by strategically opening and closing specific entrances on that board, you dictate exactly where your foragers return. For example, if you open the top door, they fly out to forage, right? But when you close that top door and open the bottom door the next day, their homing instinct forces them to return to the bottom box. By constantly shifting this balance, you completely disrupt the swarm instinct. The bees become, well, positively confused. Their swarm impulse drops to zero because you are constantly manipulating the internal population structure. You are literally the conductor of this orchestra.
On to Section 4, preserving honey strength for maximum yield.
Now you might be sitting there wondering, why do all this shifting? Why not just split the hive? Well, here is the ultimate payoff of the Snelgrove method. You see, a lot of beginners panic and make their hive splits way too strong just to guarantee they stop a swarm. And sure, they successfully stop it, but they completely destroy their potential for the main honey flow because the colony is suddenly too weak to gather nectar. Snelgrove achieves the seemingly impossible. You absolutely stop the swarm, but you keep that massive, powerful workforce trapped inside the very same system, totally ready to bring in a maximum honey yield. It's brilliant. You get to have your cake and eat it too.
Section 5. Let's look at common mistakes and practical challenges.
We have to be brutally honest with each other here. There are no magic wands in beekeeping. Even a system as good as the Snelgrove method has its challenges. So, the crucial point is to watch out for these common traps. First is a late reaction. If the colony is already deep into the swarm impulse, the system's gonna fail and that swarm is ending up on a branch. Second is mechanical copying. Don't just blindly read the book and follow the steps. You actually have to understand the specific age structure of the bees in your hive right then and there, or you'll ruin the population dynamics. And third, completely ignoring extreme swarm genetics or sudden drastic weather shifts can break the system despite your absolute best efforts. Timing and observation, they are absolutely non-negotiable.
The Snelgrove method really demands respect because it forces you to learn the underlying biology. But once you master this logic, you are no longer the person chasing swarms through the neighbor's orchard. This method draws a very clear line in the sand. Your apiary stops being a source of extreme, hair-pulling stress in May and June, and it transforms into a field of strategic superiority. You're no longer just keeping bees, you are truly managing your colonies.
But you know what? Bee biology hides even more secrets. While Snelgrove teaches us amazing control through a specialized board, what if I told you there is an absolute classic of beekeeping genius that manipulates space and instinct without any complicated equipment at all? It's a legendary, almost magical hive-shifting trick. So, are you ready to discover the brutally effective Pagden method and take total control of your apiary? We'll see you in the next explainer.